everyone, welcome to another lesson from Lesson Up Squad. Today we'll be learning all about accounting concepts and double-sided entries. Remember, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram for important information. So today you'll be learning about all the different type of journals, different type of ledgers, and when to debit and when to credit. So let us talk about the accounting cycle. The accounting cycle comprises of a transaction. A transaction is any event that happens in a business. Transactions need to be recorded in journals. A journal or journals are rather books, different types of books that are available for you to record your transaction in. The book that you're going to decide to record it in depends on the type of transaction it is. This happens on a daily basis. So anytime anything happens in a business, you use that book to write your transaction in. Ledgers, on the other hand, is one book with all different type of accounts in it. Debtor's ledger will show you each individual debtor, and a creditor's ledger shows you each individual creditor. General ledger transaction takes place on a monthly basis, whereas journals, you would record them on a daily basis. Let us talk about the format of the journal and the ledgers. Journals are always in a column format. There's columns for details and for payments. And when you do a journal question, you always think about plus and minus. In a ledger question, it's always in a T account. Each account has its own T account. And when you're doing the question, you will always think about it in terms of debits and credits. Every day, as your business carries on, you note your transaction in the journal book. And at the end of the month, you take your journal book and you put everything into the ledger. Because a journal book cannot tell you what is in each account. So you can't easily see what's in your bank account, what's in your capital account. Therefore, you transfer everything from your journal into your ledger account. So these are the different type of journal books that you get and when they're supposed to be used. You can have a quick read at them, but most of them, in its name, you'll already be able to see when they are supposed to be used. So that's a good tip to use. So if you're confused about when to use which book, always refer to its name. So we've also included a flowchart. So if you want to see which book to use and you're more of a graphic person, use this flowchart and it will help you determine which book you need to use. Just pause the screen so that you can quickly take a note of it or write it down. So let us talk about the double entry principle. Last week we talked about the accounting equation, and this week we're talking about the double entry principle, and I'll show you in the future slides the difference between the two. But the double entry principle, as we all know it, is the debit and the credit. Debit and credits are neither specifically good or bad. They are just like directions. They tell you on which side of the ledger you will recognize the transaction. So just like you when you're driving on a road and somebody gives you direction to left or right, it's neither good or bad. It's just telling you where to go. And double entry principle, your debits and credit work in the same way. Right hand side will always be your credit and left hand side will always be a debit. For every debit, there is a credit, which means your accounting equation will always balance. Certain accounts move in certain directions, and this is what the double entry principle will teach you, which account goes left, which account goes right. This rule will not change, so always remember that right hand side is a credit and left hand side is a debit. Let us talk about the link between the double entry principle and the accounting equation that we went through in the previous lesson. So I say link because these are not two different things. When you're doing double entry principle and accounting equation, you have to think differently in both of them, but you end up getting the same result. A double entry principle, you think of it in terms of debits and credits. It always balances and it deals with different accounts like bank, property, plant and equipment, investment, and there's still assets, liabilities and equities. You just think of them in terms of the account. When you're doing an accounting equation question, you always think about it in terms of plus and minus. It will also always balance, and you think about it in terms of assets, liabilities, and equities. So let us get to the most exciting part of the double entry principle. I remember it as the dealer. Dealer stands for drawings, expenses, assets, liabilities, equity, and revenue. Now I know most of you don't use the term revenue, but I'll later explain on to show you example what is revenue. So revenue is basically like your sales and income. It's just easier to use the term revenue so that you can remember the term dealer. So just quick definitions so that you can get familiar with the terms of the dealer. Drawings is money you take out of the business. Expenses is anything that you pay for your business. Assets is everything you own in your business. Liability is everything you owe in your business. These are definitions that were in last week's accounting equation lesson. Equity is the owner's share in the business. It's the owner's worth, the extra. And revenue is the money that you've received in the business in exchange for goods and services or even interest. So here are some examples of the accounts in the dealer, and you guys can pause the screen and have a quick look at it. So let us now talk about how the dealer works. Let's break the word dealer into two parts. The first three letters of the dealer work in the same way. The next three letters of the dealer work in the same way. So if drawings, expenses, or assets in the question are increasing, you will always debit it, which means you put it on the left-hand side of the account. If liabilities, equity, or revenue in the question are increasing, you will always credit it and put it on the right-hand side of the account. So therefore, anything that increases under the first three letters of the word dealer will be debited. And anything that increases on the next three letters of the dealer will be credited. So we're only talking about the increases. If it decreases, it will have an opposite reaction. So I'm going to be doing an example of how to record from journals to ledger. This example was sent by a student. And I'm only going to be doing the examples I've highlighted. If you want to do all the examples, which I suggest that you do it, you're more than welcome to do it and send it to me and I'll check it for you. And also, if you need these slides, what you can do is just email me or WhatsApp me and tell me 3 things you've learned and I will send you the slide. Okay, so before we start, I want to quickly go through the differences between a CRJ and CPJ. Those are your most common journals that you will be using. So CRJ is used for the receipt of money and CPJ is used for the payment. But in the format, a CRJ will always have a column called analysis of receipt where you record amounts individually. A CPJ does not have an analysis of receipt. Bank. There's a column in CRJ for bank that records everything for the day. CPJ, bank column, will always record everything individually. You'll always have a sundry account in both of them that will tell you which account is needed. And both of them, there'll always be a bank T account. These are your tips and tricks for today. So let us look at the first example, which was regarding the capital that was recorded in the journal. You can take a picture of the question or you can take a screenshot of the question so that you can work through it together. So in the first question, you can see that there's capital that is put into the bank column, and on the sundry column, it says capital. So you know you need a capital account. So you firstly draw these two accounts, a bank column, a bank T account, and a capital T account. In your bank, is your bank increasing? Bank is an asset, right? And assets will form the first 3 letters of dealer. And if drawing expenses or assets in the question are increasing, we will debit it, put it on the left hand side. So in the T account, you will put it in the left hand side. What description do you put? You put capital. So the description you put is where you're actually taking this money. So basically the opposite T account. Now we go to capital. Capital, you will notice, is the exact opposite of bank. In the capital, on the right hand side, we've actually said bank and we've put in the same value. Also, if we look at the dealer rule, capital is on the second part of the word dealer. Anything that increases on that side will be credited. The next example we're looking at relates to the selling of goods and services, and you can see that because you'll see you've got an amount in your sales column and you've got an amount in your cost of sales column, which is 9,000 and 18,000 respectively. Always remember, in an inventory transaction from last week's lesson, inventory selling will always have two transactions. So the selling and then obviously recognizing the cost. Inventory is always at cost. That is from also last week's lesson. So you're going to draw up all four of your account: bank, sales, cost of sales, and inventory. In your bank account, you'd always put in your sales amount, right? Because of the value that you've sold will always be your sales value. You've received that money, it increases your bank. Bank is an asset, and therefore, according to the dealer rule, an asset will always be debited if it's increasing. Therefore, we put it on the left-hand side. Sales will be the exact opposite. Sales is an income, which is a revenue. Revenue is increasing, therefore it is credited. You always put it on the credit side with the opposite description of 18,000 Rand. Cost of sales and inventory will always go together. Cost of sales is increasing, cost of sales is an expense. According to the dealer rule, if it's an expense, you're always debiting it if it's increasing. Inventory is an asset. An asset is decreasing, and therefore according to the dealer rule, you'll put it on the right hand side. Okay, the next example we're doing is the rental income example. That's an easy example. Rental income is revenue. Revenue, when it increases, will go on the right hand side. Therefore, in rental income, we put it on the right hand side. The money that went to the bank. Bank is an asset. Assets are increasing. According to the dealer rule, if assets are increasing, you would put it on the left hand side in debit. So I'm going to be doing one example from the CPJ. If you want to do all the other examples, please do them and you can send them to me and I will assist you with them. Okay, so when you're doing drawings on the dealer rule, you can see here, is on the first three letters. If drawing increases, you would debit it. Therefore, in the drawing account, I've put the amount on the debit side, right, with the description of bank, because it was taken out from the bank. Bank is an asset. Assets were less, right? Assets were reducing because you took out money from your bank, and therefore you are going to be crediting it according to the dealer rule. So just to recap the things we've learned today, we've learned the dealer rule, which means after today you should not be confused when to debit and when to credit. You've learned the difference between a journal and a ledger, how to post from journals and ledgers, and how to think when you have an accounting equation question versus a ledger question. Remember, if you need these slides, all you have to do is WhatsApp me, email me with 3 things you've learned from the lesson, and we will email you the slides. That's all for today's lesson, guys, but remember, we're still here to help. If you still have any questions, drop us a mail. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you know when the latest video comes up. Follow us on Instagram for important news that we're always posting. Feel free to ask questions in the WhatsApp group. Please be proactive. Make use of this initiative. Until next time, bye-bye.